Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Spotlight Omaha podcast. We hope you enjoyed your 4th of July holiday and the weekend that followed. I'm your host, Jimmy Allen. We take you around the city of Omaha. We introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned marketing firm who specializes in website design, creating social media ads, and engaging your brand online today. If you need help with any of that, check out pixelfiremarketing.com today. We have a little bit of a unique approach here today. We haven't done one of these remotely yet, but for my guest that we have today, we were going to make an exception. Martina Niemeyer from the Stromsburg, Nebraska group joins us here. And for anybody that doesn't know what Stromsburg is, it's an incredible marketing opportunity where you can get out and network your business, meet other business owners and people who can basically help your company kind of grow. Martina, thank you for taking time to do this with us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Why was Stromsburg the calling for you, and how much do you enjoy the networking aspect of what you do personally?
Oh, absolutely. So I actually started out in the education field. I spent 12 years as an educator, and 8 of those years were at Bellevue East, and then working in that secondary end of things. Then I moved into working at home. Kind of trying to start something off on my own regarding, coaching young adults, late teens, that type of thing. And my husband told me that one of the most important things that I needed to do was network. When you come out of the world of education, that's not something that you necessarily know a lot about, or at least I didn't. And that wasn't ever something that was needed for the job that I was in. And so it was a brand new world. Stromsburg was the right fit for me. Actually, another former teacher that had been on in my department had also left the teaching world and had decided to go into the financial advising world. And he said, come visit my chapter. And so I did. And it was a great fit. And it was a great way to get the name out about what I was doing and who I wanted to help. And from there, it just kind of snowballed into, we went through, the COVID pandemic stuff, all of that. The chapter came out of that. And then it was, what does this really look like? And lo and behold, I ended up in the leadership of that chapter. And then Stromsburg was advertising this particular position. And I learned a lot about networking. Definitely have learned a lot more since, but I learned a lot about networking at that point. That was 2021. And so then I sat down and had a conversation with the CEO, Brett, and it was a great fit. And I've been rolling with it ever since. It's been fantastic just to meet new people, make connections, and help people find the people they're looking to get connected with. So it's fantastic.
Was that a difficult process for you when we talk about, hey, I didn't know much about networking walking in. Now I'm kind of the umbrella over this entire process. Was that as big of a jump as it looks like from the outside looking in?
I'm very, very thankful that Brett was really patient as I learned everything, because there was a lot of learning involved. I'm very, very thankful for his coaching and support on that as well, just showing me what this could be. And then also the fabulous people that I've met that have maybe done this for, good grief, 14, 15 years, where they really understand all the benefits that networking can be, but then they have those stories that go along with it. I think there's a lot of power in stories, right? And so, they have the stories that back it up. It's not just like, hey, this could be cool, but this is how it was for me. And that was really cool to have that kind of, start to put behind what I was learning about what networking looked like, and just to see some of those amazing transformations in people's lives that happen simply because of them meeting someone that they wouldn't have met otherwise, or being connected in one way or another. So yeah.
I remember the first time I walked into a networking meeting, and I started my business 5 years ago, and I was trying to sales pitch somebody through a mutual friend group in a group chat. And he said, hey, you should just come up, check out this meeting I'm in. It's a bunch of business owners. And I remember walking into the room and just being blown away by that it was even a thing. I mean, when you hear the word business, and we always hear the phrase, it's business, it's not personal, and it's cutthroat, and it's dog eat dog, to see a group of people in a room that are all just trying to help each other grow and be better people. Was that something that caught you off guard in your first meeting or group of meetings that you went to?
Yeah. My very first meeting, I was beyond nervous. I mean, so very, very nervous.
Same.
And I'm incredibly extroverted, but I was terrified that I was going to walk into this room of people that knew each other and they all knew what each other did. And here I am, and what I've got, will they want, and all of that, and so, yeah, I do think that, there's a lot of, um, there's a lot of things that can come from those connections. I think it can be a little nerve wracking for people. I was not
Absolutely.
necessarily prepared for that. Everybody that I had really been in professional relationship with was doing similar things to what I was doing, or at least they had at some point, even if it was administration and maybe they weren't doing that, being in the classroom anymore. Now they'd been there before, but now they were doing something else. That was walking into a space that I got to learn a lot. That's probably been my favorite part, is I've learned a lot about things that are available, that are things I should maybe be paying attention to, things I should be thinking about, that something that I didn't even know that was necessarily a concern or a problem. And here's somebody meeting that need. That was the coolest part for me, is I'm like, oh, wow, that I can see where that's necessary now that I actually am aware that it's a problem. But then there's also these people that are solving those problems right away too. So that was really neat to see. And yeah, it was totally different. It was something that I had never even realized was out there, and it was a whole world. And I shouldn't say I didn't realize it was out there. My husband has networked for years and years and years, and so that's one reason he had said, you need to get into this. So I knew the power of it, but from a very removed standpoint, that I had not ever personally experienced it or been in the room, for just watching those people all collectively being advocates for one another. I have one member who calls them their room full of cheerleaders, and they really are.
Yeah.
They celebrate your successes, and they're with you, cheering you on when maybe it's not the greatest moment in your business, journey, or whatever that looks like. And so I think there's a lot of industries, that you may have people that understand what you do over here, but it's just different when you're in a room of people that you have relationships with, that are willing to ride those waves of both life and business with you. Yeah, as
You,
you.
you you mentioned the 500-pound gorilla in the room, and it's the public speaking aspect of it. And obviously, when you walk into a room where you kind of mentioned it, everybody seems like friends, everybody seems like family. We see a lot of people in different upbringing groups taking their kids on vacation together, and it kind of grows organically into things like that. If somebody's thinking about joining Centersphere and becoming a member of a chapter, but they are just deathly afraid of that 60 seconds where they have to stand up and talk about who they are in their business, what piece of advice would you give somebody that they're on the cusp of, hey, I know networking is a benefit, I can see how it would benefit me, I just can't stand up and have those conversations?
Yeah. So I think that the wonderful thing about Centersphere is, I will have people who say, well, I'm not an extrovert, I don't even lean that direction, so networking can't be for me. What I love about Centersphere is that it doesn't have to look like that for everyone. Everybody doesn't have to be in these giant rooms of people.
Sure.
I tell people, start with a one-to-one. Start with being one-on-one with someone and just having a conversation, grabbing a cup of coffee, and kind of getting really comfortable talking about what it is that you do and who it is that you're looking to meet. And once you kind of get past that one-to-one piece, then it's visiting those chapters. And reaching out to me and using me as a resource is a great thing, because I can definitely point you in the direction of maybe some chapters that are, just beginning to grow. And so you're walking into a room of 4 people or 7 people versus a room of 20 or 30, which can be very intimidating for some. And they think that every single chapter is going to be like that. I have chapters in all different stages of growth. And so because of that, I can really help to tailor where people go visit. I just was on a phone call with somebody today that my question was, are you looking for a really large group, or are you looking for more of a medium-sized group? And he said, oh, I'd like to start medium, because I could just tell, like, as we were talking about things, there was just a little bit of reservation when it came to jumping into that big room of people. And maybe eventually that big room of people is exactly where they want to be. Or maybe they always want that tight knit group of, 15 to 20 or whatever it looks like. And sometimes it's even less than that. Sometimes they want a smaller really cohesive, tight knit, circle. So.
We're catching up with Martina Niemeyer, the president of Centersphere, Nebraska, here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. You brought up the key component for networking for me, and I think the 10,000-foot view tells you that the value in networking is in that room where you have 4 to 30 people, and being in front of that big group is the value to it. But for me, it's one-to-ones, and I don't think anybody could see the value in networking until they get those one-to-ones in. Why do you think that private, intimate conversation is more valuable than maybe the overlining bigger group aspect of things?
Well, there's value in both,
Sure.
but there's so much value. I mean, really, those one-to-ones is where a lot of those relationships are going to get built. If I told you, hey, I'm going to give you 1 minute to get to know this person, you would laugh at me and you'd be like, there's no way
Sure.
I'm going to know that person in 1 minute. Okay, well, you get 1 minute over the course of the next year every single week. So you get 52 minutes separated by a week to get to know that person. Are you going to kind of know that person by the end? Maybe a little bit. Sure, you maybe saw them across the room talking to some other people. You're getting a general gist of who they are. But when you sit down and you spend an hour with a person, that's totally different. That's the next level of building that relationship. You get to know each other because in that hour, sure, yes, you absolutely talk about your businesses, but you also talk about why you got into what you got into, what makes this something you want to do and bring to people, why you're passionate about what you do. That's when we get to know people and we're in relationship, and that's when we get really comfortable passing them on to our friends and family and other professional contacts of, hey, you really need to talk to Jimmy because he's going to be great to meet your need in this way. And, I sat down to a meeting with him and he's fantastic and, great guy. When I can speak from that point of relationship, it's totally
Sure.
different. So, yeah.
I want to talk about you specifically in your role. You mentioned that you took it very personally. You said I have multiple groups that are growing at different rates, and I think that's a big deal in your role because there are rules and regulations to this thing, and it's probably a little more lax than some other networking opportunities that are out there. But still, there's obviously some guidelines that need to be followed. If you're talking to a group of 3, 2, 1 person that wants to start maybe their own chapter, what do those conversations sound like, and what are kind of the infancy steps of starting a group in Centersphere?
So to get started with a chapter in Centersphere, first of all, there's conversations that person and I need to have because
Hmm.
again, it's about relationships, and
Right.
I need to know kind of your experience of leadership. I need to know what other things have you been in similarly. I need to see the ambition that you have. What are you aiming for? What's the thought process that you have behind starting this chapter? And then the conversation goes around what support I can offer. There is a certain amount of support that I'm able to offer when it comes to maybe there are people looking for a chapter. Maybe I know of people that are in industries that have been waiting for something else to start so that they can find that right fit of a chapter. Just whatever that might look like. I talk a lot about that support end of things. I do talk about, for a lack of a better term, rules. It's not really rules. It's more guidelines.
Expectations.
Yeah, and there are expectations. I mean, some of them completely are ones you would go, "Oh, okay." But our chapters don't have a lot of control placed upon them.
Hmm.
The main regulations, I mean, those aren't even the right words, but the main things that I have on them is they have to have a president because
Yeah.
they have to have someone to talk to about what's going on in that chapter. They have to meet weekly, and they are industry exclusive, and they meet for a minimum of 60 minutes. So, like I said, that's pretty
It's
narrow
pretty. Yeah. Absolutely.
on what I'm expecting there. Obviously, there's some best practices that I will talk to people about. Hey, I've seen it work really well. If a chapter does this, I would recommend you do this. There's those types of things as well. Obviously, there's some expectations of presidents as far as communication with guests and communication with me and just different things like that. So, yeah, that's
It, it's obviously different for everybody, but if we're talking widespread, what are some of the similarities you see in groups that are able to expand and grow organically and successfully? And what are some of the traits for some of the groups that have struggled or can't really get off the ground?
um. Well, I would say kind of the collective. everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's working towards the same goal. That's what I see in really successful chapters. That it's not one or two people in the chapter attempting to pull this whole group with them. Instead, collectively, everybody is invested on we're going to make this great. And when you have that like-mindedness, that's when you see just a lot of momentum. And that can happen at different speeds. I have some chapters, it takes them a couple, 6 months to a year to maybe even a couple of years to really get that momentum flowing, to find out who they are and what it's going to look like for them. And then there's others that, they hit the ground running and it's just like, boom. And it's an explosion because they found those like-minded individuals. It just depends on the chapter. Every chapter has a different culture. Every chapter has a different personality. And so sometimes it's just a matter of, what resonates with other people versus, some people will ask me, what's the best day? What's the best time? All of that kind of stuff. That right there doesn't really dictate it. Location doesn't even necessarily dictate it. It has to do with what is happening in the chapter, and then how many people are all in is really what it is. Are they just expecting to show up to a group? You get out of it what you put into it, right? And so how many people are just expecting to show up to a group and have it meet their needs and grow their business? And how many people are looking to invite other people to join them, to encourage their friends and their professional contacts and things like that to come experience this, to contribute to that culture in some way, to help that chapter president, lead, like whatever that looks like. Are they supporting them, or are they showing up, checking the box and moving on? And we do have some people that do that. And, normally the results that they're going to report are going to be very different from the people who are all in, willing to, pour in to this and invest, both in one-to-ones and their chapter meetings, and they're going to things and they're inviting people and they're excited about what they're doing here. There's just a momentum and an energy around it. So
The one aspect we haven't really talked about is the queue, and people that are looking at maybe moving groups, or maybe just getting into Center Sphere for the first time and finding the right group for them. How does that process work of being in the queue? And are there any expectations about how long you can kind of sit there in limbo?
yeah. So the queue is our independent membership, and a long time ago, they named it the queue. It
Mm.
still is called the queue. People ask you, "Are you a queue member?" Because that's how they refer to it in the network. But really, it's independent membership. You have access to absolutely everything in Center Sphere. All of our events, any chapters. You are able to get on speaker schedules. You're able to use the hub to find people to have one-to-ones with. All sorts, and not just in the Omaha area. You have access to the entire network. When you join Center Sphere, you are joining not just Omaha, not Lincoln, not Nebraska. You're joining the network, all 27 states, the whole 9 yards. So, but the people in independent membership, they do things just a little bit differently. And some people will use it to find that chapter. They're going to visit several chapters and see which one kind of fits the bill for them. Which one can they fit into their schedule the easiest, which one has that culture and that energy they're looking for, which one maybe has some key players that are really great professional contacts for them, things like that. And then we have other people who maybe they've been in a chapter and for whatever reason that chapter is not a fit anymore. Maybe they all of a sudden had a meeting that got scheduled at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, and that's when their chapter meeting met. So now they need to find a new chapter. And so they'll move from their chapter into that independent membership. And they may stay there for a short bit. They may stay there for a little bit longer until they find something that does fit with their schedule and works for them. And then we do have some people who have chosen to remain indefinitely in the queue. We do not have a limit on how long they can be in there. You can be in there forever if you'd like. We have some people that is the nature of their business. They have decided that's the best route for them. You really get to let your membership look the way you want it to in Center Sphere. We're not going to dictate your membership has to look this way, because we realize that everybody's business operates differently and
Sure.
everybody has different needs within that business. And so we don't want to come in and say, well, you have to fit into our mold. We would rather you be able to mold us and networking around what you're doing to benefit you the way that you need to. Now, people who use the independent membership the best, I will tell you that they visit chapters. They specifically and intentionally have things set aside for one-to-ones. So they're not just going in, and I call it confettiing business cards, at people like, hey, you look, oh, yay,
Sure.
there I am, bye. And they never talk to them again. That doesn't get you what you're looking for, right? But instead, they go in and they're strategically looking for, who do I want to sit down with in the next 2 weeks? That's normally my recommendation. In the next 2 weeks to have more of an in-depth conversation and to build those relationships. Because when you don't have a chapter you're going to every single week, you do have to realize your relationships that you're developing look a little bit different because you aren't seeing the same people every single week. And so you just have to navigate it a different way.
We're catching up with Martina Niemeyer here, the Omaha market president for CenterSphere on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. You brought up the business card aspect of it, and I think anybody that's been in networking has always kind of seen the that person's a guest because we have notepads that have their have their logo at the top in front of our chair. What's the most unique item you've seen somebody bring from a networking standpoint?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, people bring their swag in, I
Sure.
think water bottles, there were water bottles handed out at one, and I was like, oh geez, this is different. So, I mean, very kind of them to offer that out, but
Right.
for the most part, when anybody visits a chapter, I really tell them that business cards is all that they need. Do bring some sort of something with you that people will be able to contact you, because I've had that happen too. And I mean, no harm, no foul. We've all walked into a room that we've meant to have business cards in our pocket and we don't.
Right.
But they'll come and they'll say, well, I don't have anything on me. And people don't know how to reach out to you. So you think about that intentionality piece I was talking about. When you're walking into a space, what are you wanting people to be able to do? Well, you want them to be able to connect with you if they either have someone that they want to connect you with, or if they themselves would like to get in contact with you. And so that's why those business cards are really important. But the other swag and things like that, if you want to bring it, I mean, very rarely will people tell you to stop, but
Yeah. Nobody doesn't want free stuff.
right. But they also, I mean, who doesn't need the little tape measures and the chip clips and the things like that? I mean, sure, that's fine. But there's probably other places that you could use that, so you don't have to build that into your networking budget as well.
Sure. When we talk about outside of Nebraska, how often are you talking with your counterparts in CenterSphere that aren't in the state of Nebraska and working with those people to kind of help build the brand and make sure that CenterSphere is heading in the right direction?
So that's not necessarily something that I spend a lot of time on. So I do have somebody within the Omaha area. Her name is Ashley Hins. And Ashley is actually responsible for the growth that's happening in a lot of different areas around the nation. And so I talk to Ashley more often than I would talk to the other, CenterSphere people that are in similar positions to me. She's going to be able to have more of a pulse. So if you know somebody who wants to get involved in something like this and they don't live in the Omaha area, Ashley actually presides over Lincoln, but then she also takes care of any national growth that we have going on, in different areas. We do have some people that are specifically set over other areas as well. If there's several chapters up and rolling and it warrants having someone like myself to kind of take care of that network and support them as best we can, then there's a person in place there for that. So.
We've brought him up a couple times on this show already. Your husband Todd was obviously a big part in you doing what you do. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a networker, you're a president of CenterSphere. How do you balance all four of those things and keep them separated at the same time?
The wonderful thing about my job is that I am able to build it to kind of fit my family needs. And there's flexibility in that. Now, not on everything, obviously, but there's the ability to kind of, build that and morph that as I need to. Yes, I have a fantastic, amazing support system at home. My husband's amazing, and he's very encouraging, willing to talk through any of the things that I've got, that I maybe just need to have a sounding board on. He's fantastic on that. And then, my kids are of an age where they're really able to kind of run around and do their own thing. And so, It's more just kind of managing and making sure that people get fed at this point. So clean laundry and food is really what they want from me the most. And I do get my evenings. That's one thing I love also
Sure.
about this. Even though there is a lot of networking going on, most everything in the network is done by 6 or 7 p.m. And so if there is an evening event that goes into, like I said, 6 or 7, it doesn't necessarily go clear into the evening where, I'm working nights or anything like that. So
Is there an event on the Center Sphere calendar that's your personal favorite that you make sure you attend every single year?
I attend all of our Center Sphere events.
You got to pick. You got to pick
So
one, and you got to tell me which one you hate the most. No, I'm just kidding. You
no,
don't got to do that.
I absolutely love our golf tournament. It is a high energy, very exciting day.
Yeah.
It's coming up on the 17th out at Tiburon, and we get to raise some money for an amazing nonprofit that's chosen every single year, and that's a lot of fun. And then our Christmas party is always a really good time too. We have a lot of people with ugly sweater, and
Sure.
it's fun, and it's a good time to obviously be networking with people, but to also just have a good time, celebrate the end of the year, and that holiday season.
10 years down the road from now, where do you want to see Center Sphere at? Where do you see your role in that plan?
Oh gosh, 5, 10. That's a hard question, Jimmy. I think that there's
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Yeah. There's continuous growth, and so I would love to see continuous growth within Center Sphere. We have some areas of Omaha that we've not tapped into. I do foresee in 5 years for sure that we are in all different spots in Omaha. All different kind of areas. We kind of are central and west. We are down into Sarpy County a little bit, but I would really love to see that expanded out even further, and make sure that everybody is seeing the benefits that can be made through these connections in Center Sphere, and that it really can draw our city together, as we are having people really know people from a lot of different areas, and create some unity in that. I think that would be a beautiful thing. 10 years from now, gosh, that's a long ways down the road. I'm not 100% sure how to even answer that. I would love
Sure.
if we were in all 50 states. I think that would be fantastic. And I would love to see some other areas grow as large as Omaha, and just experience what we're experiencing here. Every area of our nation does business differently. Heck, every area of our city and our state does business a little
That's a good
differently.
point.
And so, just to see Center Sphere morph to fit what is needed in those areas, I think would be a beautiful thing as well. And just more connections for people. I think that there's relationships that are really important in business. And we see that here in Nebraska, and we're doing it, and it's fantastic. And I hope that other people get to experience that as well.
We're kind of hitting that mark where we like to shut things down for the day. Is there anything about Center Sphere that we haven't hit on that people should know about?
We've touched just about everything. We've touched independent
membership
and chapter membership. Our events are fantastic. We have those twice a month. You can visit in Center Sphere to see if it's something that you'd like to do. Some people are like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. I want a little bit of a taste. Reach out to me. I would love to find a chapter that's a great connection for people to be able to find something that works really well for them. Even if you just want to have a conversation around networking, I'd love to grab a cup of coffee with somebody, and just kick that around and see where they're at, what they're looking for. Those conversations are always welcome. So.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Good luck with your vehicle. Hopefully everything comes to fruition with that. We had our first remote episode today. We've got another first tomorrow. I'm really excited about. Two brothers in the Omaha area have designed and are releasing a board game. We're going to talk to them about their new venture tomorrow here at 11 o'clock on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. We'll see you in the morning. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jimmy.